Hey everyone, welcome back to Code of the Row. In this video, I'm going to be giving you tips to optimize Unreal Engine 5 for performance. So you can go from something like 8 FPS all the way up to 100 plus. Let's go ahead and get started. So first thing we're going to check out is our HLOD levels, which stands for Hierarchical Level of Detail. So it's a system in Unreal Engine designed to optimize rendering performance by grouping multiple objects in the scene into simplified clusters. So as you can see, this static mesh actually comes with multiple levels of LOD, or level of detail, such as 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And you can even increase these to make these either further, and Unreal Engine has an option to create LODs automatically for you. So that if your character is too far, you don't have to see all the details of this mesh, and if you're close, then you'll see it in the best level of detail that you've set for your game. So for number 2, optimize texture sizes and streaming. So when you click on your objects in your editor and in your map and so on, you'll be able to go over to the textures that it's using like so. And a lot of add-ons or plugins from the marketplace will come with a folder that says texture. And with these texture, you can look at these RVT landscapes and so on and adjust these as needed. And a lot of these textures might be using 4K textures, and you can just reduce those down to 1024 by 1024 or 2048 by 2048 and so on. And you can also go to the materials, and you may have options to adjust your parameters, adjust blending, and adjust virtual texting if needed. And that brings us to number 3 is to enable virtual texting and make sure that you have enough RAM or support in order to actually filter it out. So let me tell you what I mean. So let's head over back to project settings, and under editor, we're going to scroll down, click on virtual texture pool. You're going to see these fixed pools and transient pools and a default size in megabytes. This might be pretty low, but pretty much if you have a lot of RAM on your computer, you can increase this to a good amount. So personally, I'm using around 12 gigs. So fixed pools are memory allocations that are set to a specific size and remain constant throughout the runtime of the application. So it's good to use these when you want predictable and consistency memory usage. And by setting a fixed size, you ensure that the virtual texture system has a guaranteed amount of memory, and this can help avoid dynamic resizing during gameplay, where transient pools are resized by Unreal Engine at runtime based on the current demands of the virtual textures. So the engine adjusts the size of the pools as needed to accommodate the textures that are being streamed in and out. So for example, this map has world partition enabled already, and when I scroll up and select all these maps and stuff, you'll see that each partition is shown as its own square. So instead of using a fixed, it would actually be better for me in this case to use transient, because I only want to load the stuff in the similar blocks that I can see and around me. So when I spawn in, I'll probably only be able to see something like this much at the very max. And then as I move towards this side, I'll load other regions of the map. So instead of having a fixed size to just render everything at once, I can just use transient in order to only render those that are around me. So transient pools provide more flexibility and can adapt to varying levels of demand, but may lead to occasional performance drops if the pool size needs to be adjusted very frequently. Where fixed pools offer more stability and predictability, and as you set a specific amount of memory that won't change, this is ideal for projects where consistent performance is critical. So next up, while we're in the project settings, head over to your rendering tab. So you can play with culling around here, materials here, and textures, and you can enable virtual texture support, which will optimize the use of large textures in rendering. So it breaks down textures into smaller tiles or pages, and only the tiles that are needed for the current view are loaded into memory. And next up we have Lumen. So scroll down under the rendering tab, and you will see an option for Lumen and global illumination and reflections. And for global illumination, you can set it to using Lumen, and this can have some major performance issues depending on your optimization. Lumen does look very nice, but for most games, if you're not building a very high-scaled game, such as my Cow project, which is a top-down kind of like Link's Awakening, I don't really need Lumen on something like that. It is very small-scaled. And this will automatically turn on your reflection method if you're using Lumen. It does look really nice, but it's definitely not needed. And next up, let's talk about Nanite. So whenever you check out your static meshes, you're going to want to make sure that if they are very high detailed, kind of like you can see in the scene here, it's actually better for us to use Nanite. So when I filter out my static meshes, you can right click on these and enable or disable Nanite, like so. And in order to see Nanite triangles, is what you're going to want to do is go over to on the top left where it says lit, head over to Nanite visualization and click triangles. And this will actually show you how Nanite is being utilized in your scene. And all these triangles that you see are actually just Nanite breaking up our meshes into smaller parts for us to load them properly. And if you don't have a complex scene with a very high poly count, it'll probably be better to disable this. And in order to disable this, under our engine rendering tab that we're still in project settings, and I'm just going to search for Nanite, and I have mine disabled, but you can disable this and restart your engine, which it will ask you to on the bottom right here to just restart if you do disable or enable it. And on the top left, you might get something that says like r.nanite.project enabled. And in order to fix that, all you need to do is open up your default engine.ini, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm just going to right click my content, show and explorer, go back up one level and go to my config. And then you'll see your default engine.ini. I'm just going to right click this and open with Visual Studios. And once that's open, I'm going to look for my render settings, my renderer settings right here. And then on the bottom, you'll see where it says I can just add, or I can just change this r.nanite.project enabled is equal to 0. And then you'll get rid of this red error that should show up on the top left here. But for my case, I'm going to leave this as true. And if you're lagging in your editor, don't forget that you can just head over to the settings on the top right here, and then go down to where it says engine scalability, and you can change it to something higher or lower as needed that suits your FPS needs. So I'll set it to, if you set it to something like really low, it will start recompiling your shaders because it's not going to use the shaders that was previously set up. So I'll just set this back to high, and those are automatically cached and saved, so those will just recompile. And setting it back to high will also recompile my shaders. And next up is just building our project when needed. So on the top middle, you'll see build, and you can click build all levels or build according to what you need. And you have the option to build HLODs, but if you do build all levels, it will build everything that's listed here. So you can build your nanite, physics material, grass, landscape, virtual textures, and so on. And if you build everything, it's pretty much just it will probably take a while, but at the end of the day, your FPS will probably go up drastically if there is something that needs to be built. And that's how you optimize performance in Unreal Engine 5. Thanks for watching. Code of the Road, like, subscribe, comment below what you want to see next. If you want to support my channel, check out my links in the description below. Thanks for watching.